That was Nick Eardley with some analysis there. Now, with me now is Behnam Ben Taleblu. He's a senior fellow and an Iran and Middle East security analyst at the Foundation for the Defense of Democracy, a think tank in Washington, D.C. Thank you for coming in and speaking to us on BBC News. It's quite a confusing situation for people that don't know that area of the world particularly well, but there are so many groups which, we're talking about Syria, we're talking about Iraq, Yemen, but Iran is the umbrella group that kind of links them all together.
Indeed, and in fact it's designed to be confusing. This is the armed version of what Iran called the export of its revolution, a consistent element of Iranian foreign and security policy ever since the Islamic Republic has been around since 1979. Some of these groups they've created using local conditions and local actors, like Hezbollah in Lebanon, for instance, like the Badr Corps or Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq. In other instances, they've co-opted existing armed groups like Hamas in Gaza or the Houthis in Yemen. The goal, whether created or co-opted, is the same: to control a cycle of violence in one jurisdiction against Israel, against pro-Western Arab countries, and against America more recently, to achieve political ends while denying any attribution from the Islamic Republic. So if there's any confusion, that's rightly baked in.
So we've had the strikes by the US, the UK and other allies on the Houthi militia. And now we've had the announcement from the White House. I mean, ever since Sunday, this drone attack that killed 3 US personnel, service personnel, I think the world basically has been waiting to see how the US is going to react. We still don't know exactly where and when, but we do have some detail.
Some of those indications, you're right, that are coming out today that are being reported are that the U.S. does indeed intend to strike back in Iraq or Syria. It's still quite hard to confirm that. The big debate now, given that there was loss of life, and not just the loss of life of contractors, but active U.S. service persons, and this time in a new jurisdiction, not just in Iraq or Syria, but in Jordan, in an outpost that was likely part of a constellation of outposts that provided cover for existing American bases, particularly in southeastern Syria, raises the prospects for a more direct U.S.-Iran conflict. Many were calling for kind of punishing the Islamic Republic of Iran directly. You've heard this phrase before, holding the head of the snake accountable, or going for the eye of the octopus, or cutting off the head of the snake. It seems like the Biden administration, particularly given that it's an election year, does not want to escalate, indeed is afraid of how Iran has set up its own deterrence by punishment strategy in the region. The Islamic Republic is home to the largest ballistic missile arsenal in the Middle East. There are questions currently over how many air and missile defenses are in the region to defend America's bases, diplomatic facilities, and other interests from this large arsenal. So that may be one reason why, in the short term, the U.S. is going to look to take the conflict to Iran-backed militias, and hopefully even to Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps entities in Iraq and Syria.
But crucially, not on Iran's soil itself. And I think President Biden and other US officials have been very clear, haven't they, to say that they do not seek a wider war with Iran. But will this be seen as an escalation?
This is really the million-dollar question. And in fact, as an analyst of the way Iran conducts its foreign and security policy, I have a fundamental problem with it. And we have this problem just as much in Washington as we do in London here, now that I'm visiting, and even in Paris, where I just came from. Fundamentally, the West, and particularly certain margins of society in the West, see any U.S. or Western military response as an escalation, when in reality we have an adversary, the Islamic Republic of Iran, that is intent on slowly escalating anyway. These strikes, whether they're from the U.S. or UK in Yemen, or now in self-defense after what happened in Jordan, are at best, trying to achieve parity, trying to spook the Iran-backed network. The U.S. and the West are not escalating here, and fundamentally, based on how you scope this conflict, that's what the Iranians and the militias are also hoping for, that the West restrains itself, absorbs this cycle of violence, and then succumbs to the political demands that Iran has driving this violence.
It's a very tactical situation, isn't it? And the worry for people looking at it is that the possibility of even accidental escalation is there.
It is indeed very high, and in fact, whether you're on the pro-strike Iran internally camp or anti-strike Iran internally camp, or like me, have a couple of different options for how to do this in between, there are low probability, high impact scenarios that everyone should be quite concerned about, particularly given that, again, there is no direct contact. There is a lot of ideological enmity between the U.S. and Iran, and the U.S. and Iran and U.S. as partners in the region. So the chances of miscalculation are indeed quite great. But that's in fact where the adversary thrives, forcing more responsible, more restraining actors in the West to constantly play down because they cannot forecast 2-3 moves in the future.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time. There's just one question I want to ask you. Now that this has been put out there by the United States very clearly, would you expect military action, these strikes, to take place shortly?
I do indeed think that they would happen shortly. One hopes that, per what Secretary Blinken said recently, that there would be an ability to carry out over time. Thus far, in all of the U.S. Military responses against either the Houthis or the Iran-backed militias in Iraq and Syria, there hasn't been a consistent striking. So perhaps if the target is not Iran, perhaps by consistently striking, they can try to signal resolve that way.
Behnam, really appreciate your time and your expertise. Thank
you.